Hey gaming fans! So a while ago I remember always wondering why there was never a Super Mario Brothers trading card game. We have like Pokemon, which is based off of, you know, the characters and the game, the video game and all that stuff. Why have we never had a Super Mario Brothers trading card game? I mean, there's so many worlds to use and so many characters. I mean, it's something that could easily sell. Anyways, I thought, hey, I'm going to just come up with my own homemade card game. I used to like making games of my own. I still do every once in a while. But this one, I thought this might be kind of fun to make my own game. Now, keep in mind, this is obviously just a homemade thing. This is not anything that I plan on selling or anything like that. I do not have Nintendo licensing or anything of that nature. This is just purely for fun. And I did play a few games with my friend, and we did kind of have some fun with it. Anyways, I'll just want to show you some of the cards and some of the concepts I came up with. Another thing is, like, this was never completed. Like, I never fleshed out all the rules on how to play this game, and, you know, like, I didn't test it enough. It was really just for fun. But the concept was, you would have your starting character, or your character, you would choose between Luigi. I also had Mario, and I had Toad, too. And so, much like a lot of other card games that have a starting character, it tells you how much money you start with and what your life is, and then it gives you an attack. So Mario had a, once per turn you may flip a coin, heads you get the bop, and tails you get the jump. And then Luigi had his own. So each card had their own little thing. And so it was basically just a built-in attack, because in this game you have to be able to attack the enemies that come after you, and you need to be able to deal with obstacles. So the way the game was really played, I simulated the levels as much as I could. So we had like the desert lands, which I created, the grasslands, the waterlands. So it really depended on how you wanted to build your deck. If you wanted to build your deck with all deserts, or with grass and deserts and water, or whatever. I think I also had an ice level, which I think is in the other deck there. So they're all just different, you know, parts of going through the board. And if you were going to play each level, you had to connect each type of land to each other. So for instance, if you were going to play in the water level, you would play your water card, and then the next card after it would have to be the water card. And of course I had like tokens, so you'd use tokens to actually move on the game, much like a board game. You know, there's a few card games like that, like the Tomb Raider trading card game, which is very similar. And so each turn you would move your Mario token, or Luigi, or whoever, you know, one card over. And then when you got to the end, you had to play your castle cards. So the way you would complete a level is you'd go through each of the number of cards that were required, get to the castle, and you'd have to complete 3 castles. So 1, 2, and then 3. Sorry, I'm getting off the camera there. And then at the end, you would essentially score a point. I remember trying to come up with a way to do this. Like, I think you had to, or maybe not a point, but you had to complete like 3 full levels, and if you did that, you won the game. It was something along those lines. And of course, each area has a number of creatures that are in there and a number of obstacles. So in order to pass this one, you'd have to complete 3 creature attacks and 1 obstacle attack. And then there was like a point system. I don't know if I ever really figured out how the point systems were going to do anything, but I put it in there. Another interesting thing that I threw in there was the tunnels and the vines. And this would allow you to climb up, the vines would allow you to climb up to say another level. So say I had the desert, maybe I'll do it like this. I had the desert here, and then underneath was the water. And if you were on a level that had a vine that connected to the next board, you'd be able to go down. And then the tunnels were the same idea. If you had 2 tunnels that were connected, like this and that, you can actually, instead of, say there was a level in between, you'd be able to jump to that if there was a tunnel on there. So there was, and there's an example of it there with the tunnel going down. So it was kind of an interesting concept. I mean, it still needed a little bit of work. Some of the other cards that I had in there were the monsters, obviously. So we have the Buzzy Beetle, the Piranha Plant, the Koopa Troopa, And so what you would do is you would put, you being the opposing player against your opponent, would put these cards down on your side of the field, and you'd put a die on it or counters on it equal to the quantity. And this would be the number of creatures that you were able to throw at your opponent. And then it has a weakness, and then these little icons here would tell you which lands these can be in. So that's the ice land, it could be in the desert, it can be in the grass, or in the water. So each creature could only be on certain lands. For instance here, Hammer Brothers could only be in a land. And so what your opponent would do is when you wanted to, when you played down a level, which I showed earlier, so this one says there's one creature on this and one obstacle. So your opponent would choose which one of their cards in play and remove a token, and that's what you would have to fight for that one creature. And then the obstacle cards would come later. So that would be pretty much what you'd have to do. And then to defeat, each monster had their own little thing. So weakness, you must discard a card, then bop or slide. So you have to use either your character ability, if you have it, or in your hand, every card has two effects, or two attacks on at the bottom. Well, not every card, some of them don't. But you would have to just use a card that actually has one of those effects to stop one of these monsters. If you didn't, you'd lose a life. And of course, you had like 3 lives, so if you lost all 3 lives, you lose the game. So that was the intention there. And then with the obstacles, they're very similar. You put them down. So I had like tall grass there, the rotary lifts, the steep hills, obstacle maze. So all these would have different things. Like this one is a quantity of 1. Opponent may take any 2 obstacle cards from their deck and put them into play. So so if you play this obstacle against your opponent, you got 1 of them. Your opponent to complete this obstacle, your opponent will allow you to go through your deck to take the cards and put them into play. So you get a benefit out of that. So it's not always an obstacle that's going to damage your opponent. It might actually do good for you. In this one, the obstacle requires a slide, or you have to lose your next turn to complete this obstacle. Then the final thing about this game is if you've been noticing, the top corners are little icons. So there's the leaf, which is the raccoon suit, 5 coins, the star, the frog suit again there. So what these would be is when you got on an area that had a question block, I don't know if I have an example here, you would draw a card, and then whatever that obstacle was, that's what came out of it. Here it is. So the Jungle Hills has that little question block. So once you complete the creatures and obstacles, you get to do the question block, which means you would draw and you would get that suit. And each of those suits or things had special powers, which, you know, depending on what it was, like the frog suit allowed you to get through the water levels easily. This would give you firepower. So there was all different kinds of things that I remember I had the rules for what each thing did, but just gave your character an extra special boost. So you'd probably just take your character and put it underneath to symbolize that you now have the fire plant. And so that's pretty much what the game was. It was kind of fun and, you know, a really cool idea that I thought of. You know, I like making my own card games, so I thought this would be a kind of a fun thing to do. And we actually did have a game of it, I remember after I built it, and my friend actually liked it, so it was really cool. Anyways, yeah, I just wanted to show that off because it's just kind of fun, and I know there's a lot of card gamers out there that also like to make their own games, or always kind of wish there was like maybe a Super Mario type of game. So, you know, why not try and make your own? I mean, I was also trying to think of a Zelda game too. Anyways, let me know what you think. Yeah, this is, like I said, this is fun. This is in no way meant to be sold to anybody. This is just a homemade card game. Hope you liked the video. Throw some comments down below. Hope you subscribe. Talk to you later.